between 2017 and 2024, 67% of girls between that time actually have low self-esteem. And this is from 500 secondary schools in Nigeria. What do you think is the problem?
I think the reason is obvious. Society has trained women to see, first of all, being female already exposes you to being judged easily. And then there's the aspect that women generally, regardless of your age group, you are naturally more socially conscious than the opposite gender. And by default, what typically happens is that women generally, and girls in this case, are trained to look okay on the outside. And silence and suppress what they feel on the inside without either discussing it with an adult or working on whatever it is they're working on.
Our guest for today is an award-winning marketing and brand strategist who has built a career around understanding people, what drives them, what shapes them, and what holds them back. She holds a master's degree from the University of Birmingham, leads commercial strategy at a leading multinational organization, and has been recognized across Nigeria and Africa for her excellence in marketing and leadership. Beyond the boardroom, she is deeply passionate about one thing: helping young girls find their voice and grow into the fullest versions of themselves. Please welcome with me, Boluwatife Olawale.
Growing with grace. Growing with grace. Growing with grace. We rise together.
Bolu, it's so good to see you.
So good to be here.
How have you been?
I'm fine.
I've always wanted to ask you, have you always been this confident?
No, certainly not. Oh yeah? I wasn't born like this. I learned. And I'll say daily. Sometimes they always say, actually most times, they say experience is the best teacher. It actually is. I mean, no matter how much school you go to, no matter how much your parents from your pedigree they teach you, it's left to you with today, right? So, I mean, growing up, I was trained intentionally to be confident, but I wasn't always confident. I mean, there was a time that in secondary school, so I'm just having a flashback. The first bit of secondary school, I actually struggled with self-identity. It was a time where I genuinely thought being accepted was much better than being visible and to be known for who I am as Bolu. There was a time when it was a boarding school. There was a time when going before the Manyari was a spree. They had to drop me off after the intended. And because of the kind of school I was going to, I was used to seeing Prados in multitudes. So if it wasn't a Prado, I was in a beach school. So my mother being a teacher said, okay, no school. If you're going to enter the school bus. And then to me, that felt like punishment. I willed. One of the things that I'm grateful for is that she always said to me, you can do it if you really want, but you must try. Not just academically, but also in my journey to becoming what I am today and what I'm still becoming. So no to your question. I went through different phases of my life, even in adulthood, to get to this point where my emotions no longer control me. I speak to it. And I mean, I guess we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
So I know, self-identity, self-awareness, confidence, somehow ambiguous to some teenagers who may not really understand what it is. Break it down for me.
So self-identity is, to me, beyond all the technical textbook definition, to me is knowing who you are, accepting who you are and who you're not, and understanding the journey between who you are and who you're not, and grooming yourself, intentionally working on yourself to get to where you're supposed to be. But again, from a teenager's perspective, it's understanding that I, Bolu, am beautifully and wonderfully made. Understanding that whatever I look like is exactly how I'm supposed to look. Obviously, this is beyond a health definition.
Yeah.
They know there are also health discussions around weight and whatnot. But when you get comfortable in your own skin as a teenager, it means that no matter what anybody says to you, except if you believe it, but if you believe it starts from you telling yourself what you're not and what you are.
Yeah.
And accepting what you are, who you are, and understanding that for the things I don't have, one day, whether it's material, whether it's physical, if I'm supposed to have it, I will get it.
So I saw a research somewhere that was carried out in about 500 schools in Nigeria, and it showed that about 13% of girls between the ages of 8 and 14 have low self-esteem. They narrowed down that research between 2017 and 2024. 67% of girls between that time actually have low self-esteem, and this is from 500 secondary schools in Nigeria. What do you think is the problem? Because boys and girls, we grew up in the same world, in the same society. Why are the girls having low self-esteem in high number than the boys?
I think the reason is obvious. Society has trained women to see, first of all, being female already exposes you to being judged easily. And then there's the aspect that women generally, regardless of your age group, you are naturally more socially conscious than the opposite gender. And by default, what typically happens is that women generally, and girls in this case, are trained to look okay on the outside.
Yeah.
And silence and suppress what they feel on the inside without either discussing it with an adult or working on whatever it is they're working on. So the reason why we see a hike, and a growing hike, I would say, in the number of teenage girls as compared to the opposite gender that struggle with inferiority complex or low self-esteem, as the case may be, is I vehemently think that strongly rather believe that it's coming from a place of what society has trained them to see, and understanding that silencing your voice is easier, it's more rewarding than actually being yourself. And I say this because I actually picture my 13-year-old self, my 15-year-old self. I mean, I gave you the perfect example.
Yeah.
And I'm saying it because I've been through it. And I understand that in certain phases of our lives, as women, especially as a teenager, you would struggle with silencing your voice, probably suppressing your emotions because you're looking for acceptance. And automatically, you hear that acceptance is more rewarding rather than accepting who you are and confidently and conveniently being yourself.
Yeah. That's teenagehood, that's adolescent gap between the age of 18, 14, and move to 15, 16. Why, I mean, how is it important for a girl to build self-confidence in that period? And if not, how do you think it would affect them as adults, basically?
It's extremely important because that's like the bridge. It's the bridge between what one can become and what one is out of becoming. And what do I mean without complexity involved? When within that 18 to 20, you're a lot more vulnerable. A lot more vulnerable to what people think of. You're a lot more vulnerable to being liked, being accepted. You're a lot more vulnerable, and you shy away from the fact that there's a possibility that the moment you speak out loud, stand for yourself, stay true to your skin, you automatically fall within the minority. And a lot of people are afraid to be in the minority because that comes a lot of loneliness. And that comes a lot of I'll say people in yeah. And unfortunately, society has painted this picture that it's more rewarding to have a lot more people around you and not understanding that quality over quantity. It's what makes life easy. And I think the way forward for anybody or any teenage girl that is within that age group and is saying to herself, no, man, it's first of all journaling. I find that journaling is free. Writing your emotions allows you, it disarms your emotions taking over your actions. And I think it needs to be a lot more encouraged as an act of healing for those that are going through, because there's a thin line between that and depression.
Yeah.
And having the Holy Spirit. God plays a very vital role in shrinking one's self-awareness. No matter how much they tell you, either a therapist or a spiritual guardian, a spiritual guardian can teach you, but you can force a horse to move, but you can't force it to drink water. So there has to be a level of having a relationship, which is why it's a train up a child in relationship. So one of the things is journaling, another thing is Holy Spirit. Another thing is having a trusted addict as a guardian. Because there's one thing is when you speak, you heal. You heal faster. Remember, if I didn't have people that I trusted, in times when I doubted my sketch, I am not sure of what I would have become. I'm saying from a place of someone that has gone through depression, someone that has gone through deepest level of anxiety and death.
Tell me about this.
I mean, there were times when I said to myself that I naturally accepting me to be accepted. There were times when I didn't answer to a question, no, because I didn't want to be seen as too bored. There were times when I boxed myself up in however way with this go match pocket that may be the case, but I would lock myself out from everybody else at him and start scrolling through social media and wishing to be like people that ain't not being about their personal affairs. But the core society had many things. That was the standard. I was attracted to people's lives that I didn't remember. I knew nothing about this kid. But the moment I started to disarm those things that held me back, and I started to journal, I started to speak more to people that I could trust. And I genuinely felt like they were happy being themselves. Because another thing is, I could trust somebody, but I don't see them being genuinely happy. So I think as teenagers, journal.
I mean, I like that you mentioned journal. I mean, because even as an adult, I journal. I've been journaling since I was a teenager, and it really helped me a lot. It still helps me today. So, I mean, I don't know why I work a lot with teenage girls, and they're more interested in their phones than in journals. I know in those days, sometimes we had those little journal books that had keys, some pink colors, some purple colors. You gift it to your friend.
They don't use it. Yeah,
they don't use it. So I think journaling is very rewarding and very healing. Parents should encourage it with their teenage girls.
But like what you said about the fact that they are more of your affairs. So sometimes when there's a problem, take the thing that you feel enables them and take the positive to them through that platform. So what do I mean? A lot of people, including adults, are more on their phones and actually having human conversations. And I think the first thing is, as much as social media or technology has its disadvantages, it also has the advantages. Greater information output. But I think that one of the things that we could is parental condition. But I was saying that in church we're talking about authoritative and authoritarian in terms of how to parent. But to this discussion now, I think that it starts from the fact that not every teenager is willing to write down their thoughts. So I mean, even back then, there were times when people's journals got missing, and they were afraid that it would get exposed.
Yes.
So if in any way it can be digitalized in a way that I mean, I don't know if there's an existing solution to that.
Actually, there is.
Really?
I actually use one. It's just called Journal.
It's an app.
Yeah, it's an app.
Perfect. I mean, that way, the fear of somebody else might see it, those with data protection. But I think that journaling, having board at the center, and having that teenager choosing board intentionally and not because I was born into a Christian family allows a teenager to choose God as a conscious choice. And there's a way that as that teenager holds journaling, God, journaling rather, and having an adult that they're accountable to, not from a parent's perspective, but actually having adults that are not authoritarians in nature, authoritative from a point of they would love them in a way that they will be vulnerable enough to express themselves conveniently and vulnerably.
Tough love.
Tough love, exactly. I think that's the same erotic topic. It's something that I'm grateful that I had that exposure to because it helped me. It helped me to be vulnerable enough to say where I was struggling, to express myself in a way that allowed me to heal and grow. And I believe that that way, for anyone that's struggling as a teenager, it's okay. It's okay because it's genuinely okay. And it's okay because a time will come where you'll be thankful for this journey. Because for every season is a lesson. And don't be afraid to speak. Don't be afraid to be the light in a room filled with darkness. Because I do understand that as a woman, then as a teenage girl, you're so afraid to be visible. Because visibility leads to jealousy. Jealousy leads to being in the minority. Being a minority means that you'll be unliked. Those that matter will be your people. And is either the room will stretch to fit you, or another one will be created for you. And that's one that I learned. And the moment I learned that, I realized that it was okay to be good. It was okay to have a voice that I didn't have to speak through a microphone to be heard. It was okay for me to have my nose in a certain shape and not what I see on TV. Because guess what? Somebody else wishes that they had the exact same thing I'm complaining about. And the moment I realized that no matter what anybody sees in me, if I don't be it, if I don't give them the access to that side of me or that aspect of me, they can't have it all over my emotions.
Grace. Growing with grace. Growing with grace. We rise together.
So I want to speak a bit about your career because I mean we know that you're the eighth woman. I mean, you've won multiple awards. I mean, you recently have a recognition, professional marketing award for translating human character into emotional insights and experience for brands, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, proud, right?
I'm shy.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so tell me, I mean, brand is mostly about communication. How do you think brands are communicating to teenage girls and how are they helping them basically build self-esteem?
Ooh, this question. You see, the thing is, first of all, branding is marketing. Marketing is more of emotional communication, as the case may be. They're making people see or feel or believe or whatever it is the product or service you are offering. But I believe that the role that it plays is quite significant. And it's a role that either shapes or breaks the self-esteem of young girls all over the world. And if you look at Nigeria specifically, it's more of the fact that whether you're melanin or you're caramel or whatever skin tone you are, brands need to highlight a lot the positives rather than negatives. As much as, yes, you are marketing, there's a fine line between highlighting what your product can be and not stripping down what a Nigerian young girl is. I'll use an example. Skin. Africans are known for melanin skin. I'm caramel. But if a brand is marketing to me and they're making me believe that I have to strip my caramel skin to be light skin, It means that you're telling me to step out of who I am as a person to become what you're supposed to be. And there's a fine line between that and disarming what I am as a person. I believe that in storytelling, there should be a lot more emotional consciousness in telling the story based off on what the reality is. Make a young girl sing this scene. Make her feel armed by your product. Make your product the hero in a story, not this the what do you call it in movies? The villain. Make me understand that as a young girl, if I use your product, either a sanitary pad or skincare, as a perfume, whatever it's, or even hair, wig, don't make me think that without that, I cannot exist. So as much as you are coming through the direction of emotional marketing, arm me with your product. Don't disarm me with your product. Don't throw a hint of humor, but the hint of humor should not ridicule me. And so in doing that, that makes me see you as a young girl in my future. It makes me believe that you'll always be there for me, but not always being there for me by disarming whatever it is that I came to the world as. I think that is that fine line. And as much as brands want to sell, they should sell products that fit into the current lives of young girls and not reshape the lives of young girls in a way that fits that they want their products to fit. Almost like stretch themselves to get into a space where I want to be in the daily life of this particular young girl. I don't want to reshape her life in a way that my product must fit. So if it's skincare, tell a story that fits into a melanin tone, whatever tone, that is into Nigerian young girls' life. Don't make her feel like she has to bleach her skin because you want her to use your product. And then her skin turns into two tones. And she uses her life because it's cancerous. Don't make her think she needs to pat her backside. Because you want to sell your girdle. Don't make her think that she has to go to plastic surgery to be the most beautiful girl in the world because you want to sell your operational whatever it is that you're selling. And stop reducing the voices of young girls because it's
I think that's what brands are doing a lot. So I see a lot of products for females. There is no clear distinction that this is meant for adult females and teenage. So you see teenagers using products that are meant to be used by adults because they don't have an option. So for a young girl, for instance, I still want to do a little bit of makeup and all. How do I know what is good for me as a teenager? Who is controlling this? Should brands actually be very clear about communication to say, if you're at a certain age, you're not to use this kind of product?
Absolutely. It's the same way you say caffeine. It should not be consumed by anybody below 18. It's the same way with even beauty products. It should be the same thing. And I honestly believe that, going by the way is having an adverse impact on this generation. It's extremely important that they start putting age restrictions on especially beauty products. Because the way it's going, thousands of young girls are dying of plastic surgery walls or whatever it is, and however we to frame it. Thousands of young girls are exposed to cancer because of misuse of products. Thousands of people, and young girls specifically, are dying because they use the product as a hassimon to
Their skin.
Yes.
And there's nobody checking. The brand sales and like, oh, we get sales today.
Exactly. A lot of brands are thinking more in terms of short-term profits and volume sales rather than thinking about the sustainability of the existence. Forgetting that this is the next generation and need to sell your product. And the only way is through emotional marketing. But don't stretch my reality to fit your reality. Stretch your reality as a product. Build your product to the point where it's actually fitting into my reality and my day-to-day life. Not telling me that I have to be a certain way to consume your product or to engage with your product. I think if you start with age restrictions on products, That would be a first start. And for those that say they do it, but they don't enforce it, another thing is something compliance to check. Because if you want to um, be in existence for as long as you aim to be as a brand, you should be thinking more from a safe space, being a safe space for them girls, and not being beaten against us.
Yeah. So I'll ask this last question before we move to the next session. Who do you think should control what the teenage girls buy?
First, their parents. But you see, there's a tough law that you control that these young girls then go to school and you have no visibility of exactly what they're doing. So, as much as pedigree is the first foundation to teach them what is right from wrong, honestly, it goes back to that. Because there's no matter how much the outside world teaches them, what they don't have as a foundation would easily be exposed.
Yeah.
Easily. Why is it that a lot of teenage girls that grew up um under parents that are dictators, when in the moment you open the gates for them to leave the house, they turn into the wildest, most uncontrolled girls that you ever lose is the word. The reason is because they haven't been given a choice to make. They have always been told this way or no. So they want to check what is on the other side. And if you don't teach them, if the foundation is not strong, the entire house will be. And so it goes back to say, and I use myself as an example. I was given a choice.
Yeah.
And that helped me to be this bold. Some people would find it rather audacious. I probably want to have it out of the ring. Or you see, lights cannot be covered. No matter how much you cover the lights, you'll still illuminate through whatever it is that you put it through. So as much as these girls want their freedom, because every teenager wants their freedom, there has to be a thing where tough love is the approach. I love you, but I'm going to display. And I need you to understand I'm doing this, but there's a way that you parent that child. And when the child now has a trust in your absence, they make the right choice. So to your question, is setting the household, is setting the parents. And there's one thing to say something, another thing to practice what you preach. And these children watch. You see, this Gen Z generation, they are the most learned without going to, like, outside of the walls of the school. They're already
So exposed to a lot of things.
exactly. So you can't I'm not sure as you put parental control over what they see online. They have their classmates.
Yeah.
And you see those classmates, you will know those ones that were properly brought up. By the time they start vulgar languages, all sorts of exchange of information that is unfair, you're thinking, how does this child know? The reason is because they are being taught, but the things that they see their parents do at home is not what the parents are teaching them. So you want your child to do certain things, but you are doing the opposite.
Dress appropriately.
Exactly.
But you're not.
I mean, you're not dressed appropriately, you are swearing in the house, you are doing all sorts of things that are bad. There's no way that child will not go outside and do exactly. I mean, they live in a generation where they're more visual than anything. So they will consume anything that you visibly see you do. So yeah, I think train up your child in where you should go. So that when you're not there,
They know
still
exactly what to do.
they still have their voice. So regardless of whatever brand is advertising to them, they know what is right and they know what is garbage.
So yes. Implore you to join us by subscribing to all our social media platforms on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and join us to have this conversation.
Growing with grace, growing with grace.
So there's something about confidence, there's that real confidence that people, when you walk into the room, everybody just, ooh, I like this girl, I like the way she shows up. And then there's also that performative confidence that some people actually have, right? And teenage girls, you see it a lot, they have that performative confidence that they come in and you try to have a conversation with them. They're trying to be confident, but they're rude unconsciously. How does it get to how are we able to teach them what real confidence is and what performative confidence is?
So it starts with the foundation. I guess. I think that the only reason why you would need to be performative in your day to, because it's a day-to-day thing, is in not knowing who you are. The reason why I would feel like I need to chest out, for example, is because I have seen it somewhere, or I have seen that chesting out based off on what I was told by society makes me confident. So it's, first of all, there needs to be a resculpting, if that's the word, of what confidence looks like or should look like. I think that a lot of young girls struggle because of two things. One, they don't get that training from home. Parents assume and have done that responsibility on the school or church, forgetting, or whatever mosque if they are Muslims, forgetting that the first foundation, the first thing that will build whatever house as a child or as a teenager is what the first foundation that you put, and that starts from you. Whatever you don't teach that child or that young girl, society will teach her. And that fine line between being outspoken and being rude is because they call it blunt.
Yes.
But what they don't understand
I'm being
is
myself.
yes, being yourself doesn't mean that you should be disrespectful. And that starts with no understanding where the boundaries are. And boundaries will come from understanding what it is and what is not. I'll give an example. Growing up, my mom actually sends me to an etiquette and decorum class.
Oh, nice.
So she's a teacher.
Okay.
So, and she sent me for summer school, and part of the summer school was there was ethics and decorum class, and in that class, I actually learned how to use a fork and knife. Now, for those that might not have that opportunity, it's not about the fork and knife. It's not about the creme de la creme. Would I use a fork and knife if I'm eating a bar? Of course not. But I feel like the foundation is the problem. If they're not being told at home the difference and the boundaries between how to speak to people and how not to speak to people, they will take what their classmates, their friends are telling them, and those ones will be clapping for them and hailing them. Being vocal doesn't mean you should have no boundaries.
Yeah.
Being outspoken and also vocal doesn't mean that you should be disrespectful.
Yeah.
There's an ounce of disrespect and there's an ounce of being blunt.
Yeah.
I can be blunt, but I will not be brutal. So how you can teach those ones that don't have boundaries is tough love. Tough love is you will take away the things that makes their shoulders high. I'll give you an example. This topic is very dear to me because I've been through it. At a point in my life, I thought I was at the peak of everything I should have. My mom stripped me of everything that I thought, took my phone. Because, again, at the time, my phone was, I have a mobile phone at that time. Took my phone away from me, disarmed me. I hated that experience as a teenager. But I'm thankful today because it helped me know that, first of all, the anchor of my life is on my mobile. As much as I would communicate, work, everything on my mobile phone, I realized that the moment I disassociate power from that phone, it takes away everything I think that phone is to me. And it goes back to foundation, which is why I said that, you see, those ones are very disrespectful. I think I'm just being blunt. This Gen Z.
And they can always be blunt.
Some of them are outrightly mannerless. And it goes back again to what they have been told is appropriate. Another problem is social media. You see a lot of them throw garbage and they say they're giving a feedback or comments. And they are taking that even into corporate world where they are so entitled, do bare minimum in terms of work.
And expect
the most.
awards.
You'll be at interviews. You'll be asking them, how much do you want to earn? You look at the person's work experience. They want to earn as high as a CEO, but they have zero work experience. They're not willing to start from ground zero to grow through the ladder. And that's why I say everything goes back to foundation. It's not just even in the manners. It's in the understanding of what is deserving to them. They are so entitled to the fact that they feel like it's okay to walk up to the CEO without being constructive about the feedback they want to give to the CEO. And I think that if parents understand that it's their responsibility, it's not the school's responsibility, not the church's responsibility, not the mosque responsibility to teach your child how to speak and interact with others, then I'm sorry, but you have failed. And the moment you understand not to shift the responsibility, and in doing that, it goes back to having time out. Their phones. Do you have access to certain things that they don't know that you have access to? Social media now, they expose us. We hear of girls that are kidnapped, raped,
Mostly teenagers.
mostly teenagers. And the reason is because some parents have lost control over their children. And it's also because they have put over this dictator approach. That the children no longer feel the need to be vulnerable to them. For example, there are children that, they're girls rather, young girls, that have been raped by a family member. But because my mother will kill me if I tell her,
cannot say
she will
anything.
never believe me if I tell her. So there's no relationship. There's you really in 100 families in Lagos, for example, or let's say Nigeria as a whole. How many mothers can boastfully say that they have a genuine, undiluted relationship with their daughters? How many daughters can say, whatever happens, I tell my mom, no judgment zone, my mom will correct me.
So, but how do mothers, how do they correct without judging? Because as a mother, you come to me and say, Mommy, I'm pregnant, and you are 15.
So I'll use
I don't
myself
know.
as an example.
Yeah.
Going by how I grew up. We're 5 children. I'm the last of the 5. My siblings will tell me, you came at the time when mommy has become soft. But even in that softness, I thought she was tough. And I think that one of the things that mothers need to understand is no matter what you are, your first assignment is your home. You see, a lot of us now are so driven by career progression that we abandon our children who are principally our first assignment. Beyond our home as a whole, our children. And I believe that because I grew up with a very intentional mother, my mom was present for everything. And times when she couldn't be physically present, she will send my sister. And those were times where, beyond everything, she couldn't just be present. Visiting days. And so I'm saying that for parents that, because their situation might not be the case, ensure that you keep anything that will keep you away from being present, not just in times when you cannot be physically present, emotionally
Try
present.
as much as you can.
You see that emotional presence is the most important, because even when you are physically absent, because your children are already emotionally vulnerable with you, in their mind they've extended grace. That the reason why my mom is not here, the reason why my dad is, I did that for my mom. So it was times when I knew that she tried her best, but she couldn't. But because I knew that she loved me, no matter what. There was a time when in one of my secondary schools that I attended, a teacher had falsely accused me. Yes, because the teacher just did not like my guts. And had falsely accused me. My mother said to the teacher, you see all those things that you said about my daughter? I'll tell you the one that is true and the one that isn't. And she was correct. But guess what? My mom was not there. But she knew me so well that even in defending me, she wasn't defending me blindly. She was defending me from a place of, I have been so vulnerable to her that she knew me to an extent that she could defend me with her eyes closed and say, my daughter can be something that she will not tell me, but I know what she's capable of. How many mothers can boastfully say that my daughter will not steal? My daughter will not put herself in a situation that's compromising.
And they say, they call you and say, I saw your daughter in this place.
Exactly.
And they'll be like, no,
and
you are
another
wrong.
thing is to what you just said about being wrong. You see, money and young girls is something that if you don't train your young daughter to be content with what she has and who she is, the world will teach her how to want more without being at the level of life that is equivalent to what she's desiring. I'll give you an example. Why is your 20-year-old daughter asking for a Mercedes Benz? What has she seen that is making her desire. Now, don't get me wrong, even if you can afford it as a parent, things that my mom could afford, but intentionally said to me, you would work for it. During holidays where my mom will say, follow me to work. You can't just be sleeping and thinking you will sleep.
Bring food home and you eat.
I thought it was tough, but I'm grateful for it. Because one of the things I realized is that if you don't take away those vices become gods. And those little gods become things that will be a hindrance to the growth as a young girl. And that young girl would mix things like being honest with being rude, being vocal with being brutally insulting, being lazy with being I'm resting. Now they are mixing I'm resting and using resting as an excuse to be lazy. Using I need to tell you what I'm doing to being unaccountable to their actions. They are also progressively leaning towards this part of they want so much money, but they want to do the barest minimum in corporates. They will send emails easily at every slight inconvenience. Dear HR, I'm unable to come to work. What did you teach your daughter? Also, this thing where we see our monthly periods as women. Do you teach your daughter what ovulation is? Do you teach her how to retain her virginity? Do you teach her that it's okay to be vocal if somebody has assaulted you? Do you teach her to stand for herself even in your physical absence? Do you teach her that it's okay to respectfully decline? Do you make her understand that if someone gives her 5 million naira, she can respectfully turn it down? Do you teach her that is when you touch her lap, she gets pregnant? What do you teach her? Are you leaving all of that responsibility to the church or the mosque, to the religious houses and to her school? A lecturer in the university, a teacher in secondary school is responsible for just the academia. And academia is not going to teach her what her pedigree is supposed to teach her. Do you teach her that when she's wearing a skirt or a dress, she's supposed to have her legs in a certain way? Do you teach her that it's not okay for a lecturer or a teacher, whoever it is, to be verbally flirting with her and for her not to be vocal about it? Or do you teach her that it's okay to have a voice, that even when certain people are speaking to her in a very sexually misconducting way, she reports to the highest authority to excuse herself from that space? I think that it's okay to be vocal, but being vocal starts from the foundation. And what she sees, no matter how much you teach her, has to be 5 and 6. If you tell her to be vocal, best believe you as a mother, you as a father have to show her how. Because Gen Zs are more visual. If you want to hide money away from them, put it in the Bible, put it in a book. They won't open it. But if you tell them that I want you to watch this on your iPad, on your phone, I'll send it to you on WhatsApp, they will check.
Ready.
Or on Snapchat, they will check. So it's a way where teach them through ways that they find interesting. Don't make conversations so conventional that they find it, they have PTSD. And they see love as impossible. You know, the reason why a lot of girls are the way they are, young girls, either disrespectful, loose, is because they have post-traumatic disorder from what should have been tough love to they blur out at the moment. For example, a lot of young girls between 18 and 24, when they get married, they're not expressive. They find it very difficult, either because they have been abused or they grew up with a mother that they saw being tough all their life. So what then happens is that they're not easily vulnerable because society and also by default, they didn't see their parents being emotionally expressive. How many parents tell their children that I love you? How many fathers tell their daughters I love you? So much so that if one guy that is not qualified to be called a husband approaches them to say I love you, they can tell the difference. How do you train your child that so much so that when she sees her first period, she's not crying and she's not afraid
She's not
of what
afraid,
it
yeah.
is? How do you teach them to dispose their sanitary pads that is healthy and also okay spiritually? How do you teach them not to be so exposed that when they get into a space and they see people taking things that are, hazardous to their health, they can
They
flee
can
away from
just walk away.
temptation?
Yeah.
And it's not about the lust of the flesh, but because their flesh is so tough that they're able to make choices without feeling that they are missing out on something. Starts with the family.
Yes, I totally agree. You have said so many things. I don't even think I have to ask any more questions at this point. I have a short story. I mean, it's a question from a teenager. We had a session with them earlier this year, and we're trying to teach them how to be prepared for 2026, your goals, and then we brought in someone to speak to them. And after the session, the facilitator asked them to write in a piece of paper their goal for the next 3 years. And then this girl sent this in. Ma, when you said we should think in the next 3 years' time where we're going to be, what if we didn't achieve our dream? Or what if we go astray? Or what if we never even get to live in the next 5 years?
See, that mindset is a pessimist mindset. And it's a mindset that check two things. Was she ever reminded of her failures? Was she ever reminded that she can't go past a certain phase of her life? Did she grow up in an environment where everybody was failing and she couldn't rise beyond it? Did she grow up with parents that for every single time she failed, as opposed to encouraging her to see herself as better, they would compare her to people? That mindset is the mindset of somebody that has a lot of things going through their mind. And it starts with, first of all, holding the person's hand, not from a therapist point of view, but from a you can do this. I'll give you an example. When when in my junior secondary years, I used to be last three of the
Last three.
last
Okay.
three. And it was so bad that then they would announce the result of everybody. First three and last three. And my mom used to tell me, you can do it if you really want, but you must try and try. Every time she sang that song to me, I'll cry. Say, I don't think I can do it. Just say, no, I know you can do it. I went from last three. First of all, she took me out of that environment because she saw that that environment limited me to seeing potential in myself. And then she took me to a new environment. I went from last three to first. And yes, I studied harder. But also because I had an environment enabling. And the funny thing is, I had a friend then that thought it was because the standard of the school was too low. That's why I had suddenly gone from last three. So your environment, including people that's supposed to believe in you, will test you. But you see, if you have those propellers, they might not come necessarily in family members, but might be friends. Hold on to them. So my advice to this young girl is find somebody that you genuinely trust emotionally and believes in God and is practicing Christianity. There's a way that will separate and sieve out every form of siege of being a pessimist and remind you what the Bible says. There's a promise in the Bible that you are created for a purpose. And no matter what you go through, still, this young girl needs to know that it's okay to have very daring and audacious goals. But what is not okay is to doubt yourself before you even start. I said to myself as the 13, 14-year-old I was then, I can do it. So she can do it. She can do it if she really wants, but she will try. And when she fails the first time, she will try again. And she will keep trying until she makes it. And the certain person I referred to, when they came, they had to open, this was SS1, right? She had to come and tell me, I changed my school to this because I thought we're friends till tomorrow. But that moment showed me that I was the one letting myself down. So, dear young girl, don't be afraid to dream. Be audacious in your dreams. It will bring the best out of you. But also enable yourself in the right environment. Don't be around friends that will mock you for failing. Be around people that bring out the best in you. And dear young girl, the only way to know this, how do you feel after every conversation with your friend? If you feel like not the best of yourself after hanging out with your friends, leave those friends. If you feel like you have to compete with your friends, those are not you. If you feel like you need to be somebody else, you need to borrow to be in a particular environment, that's not your environment. If you feel like you need to wear a certain thing to be yourself, that thing is not for you. I say this to the 13, 14, 16, 17, up to whatever age, even as adults, there's still people that they look so beautiful as women. They're empty on the inside. If you turn them upside down, if they were to be a bottle, nothing, not even a single drop of water, because the container is empty. And he also says from the foundation. So to the young girl that had this paper, dream, but dream and do. Don't dream and just dream. The beginning of failure is not to plan. When you dream, set milestones. Be smart about your milestones. Don't just dream and have it all over the place. Dream beyond your immediate environment. If you live in a Jegunle, do not deny. Wherever you are, wherever it is that you are, do not allow your current situation shape you. Wherever you are in this year doesn't mean that you can't still tick every single box. Every single box. And I say this from a space of responsibility. Society will tell you have to have a certain level of qualifications to be the CEO. I'll tell you, for somebody that didn't study marketing, I have 0 qualifications in marketing. Today, I'm grateful for every single experience. Marketing has taken me to China. Marketing has taken me to different parts of the world. And this is for somebody that did not study marketing. What did I do? I was passionate enough to equip myself with knowledge. Passionate enough to equip myself with people that bring out the best in me. People that saw passion and turned passion and equipped and fired up the knowledge that passion needed to equip me to become whatever it is that I'm still growing to be. And humble enough to know what I'm not. And dear young girl, you need to be self-aware to know what you are not. And take everything that you're not, carve it to becoming what you're supposed to be.
Thank you so much, Bolu. You've said so many things. I'm really grateful that you came here. And I know that there's a young girl out there that will learn so much from you, from your confidence, from your poise, and from the knowledge that you have shared. So if you're a young girl out there, I'd like you to, as you're watching this video, share it to other young girls in your area and ensure that they watch, they listen, ensure that you've subscribed. Tell your parents that you want to subscribe to this channel because you want to keep watching. And parents, please subscribe and get your teenagers to watch and learn. And please be the best mother, the best father that they can ever dream of. Thank you for joining today. So as you're watching, like, share, subscribe to our channels, and ensure that if you've not seen other episodes, we have other episodes of Going with Grace that talk about different topics that will entice you and change your life. So go back and watch all of it. And I'll see you another time. This is Growing with Grace.
Growing with grace.